Today I'm looking at several brands that make lenses for iPhones, including Beastgrip, Sandmarc, Shiftcam, ReeFlex, Freewell, and Moment. And I'm just comparing the Telephotos today, as they are one that I use a lot. But more importantly, they haven't really worked that well with the iPhone 15 Pro lineup. But they do work with previous generation phones, just not the 15. So I just wanted to show some very general test footage here. This was shot on the Blackmagic camera app using Apple Log, but I did bake in the LUT, and I used the Blackmagic camera LUT. It's more of a traditional iPhone look than more of a cinematic look. The reason I wanted to show this is some of the lenses here have some aberrations and some issues, but you really can't see it unless you're pixel peeping. And that's a pretty big point I want to keep in mind here. All these lenses perform okay in everyday kind of shooting, but if you look at the details, which I'll do later, you will see some issues, and there are some that are better than others. But depending on what you're doing, that may matter less to you than some of the other features of the lens. So why even use lenses? Well, if you put the lens on the main iPhone camera, the 24mm in the case of the 15 Pro, you just get better quality. That way you get better low light performance, and you also get more shallow depth of field, and also you can get more unique shots using an anamorphic or a fisheye, etc. I've included chapters as I'm going to cover all aspects of the lenses, so if you want to skip around, go for it. Now I just showed some test footage, and I'm going to show more later, and I'll analyze that in more detail, but I'm going to start off with more spec related stuff, beginning with size and weight. So we've got two sets of lenses that have similar size. You've got the first ones, which are what I'm calling the bigger lenses. It's the ReeFlex, the Beastgrip, and the Freewell. The Freewell and the Beastgrip are very, very similar. This came out quite a bit before the Freewell, and so I would say Freewell used the Beastgrip as a model. Different lens mount, but very similar size. The ReeFlex, similar weight, but a smaller circle for the whole lens. But again, very similar in size, and the weight in particular is the same as these. 17mm mount versus a 37mm mount on the Beastgrip. One interesting thing, this is something I've just discovered in my testing, you can flip these lenses over on their back, but on the ReeFlex, you gotta be real careful. You see how it's wobbling? When you flip it over, the actual lens touches the ground. So you just want to be real careful. I discovered that the hard way. It didn't scratch the lens, but just something to keep in mind. So now we'll look at the smaller lenses. And I say smaller, but compared to the previous generation lenses, these are still pretty big. This is the Moment T-Series, this is the Shiftcam, and this is the Sandmarc. And out of these, the Sandmarc is probably the smallest, although they're all very similar in size. The Shiftcam is a little bit wider, but it weighs less. You can just feel in your hands. They all feel very hefty compared to the previous gen lenses, that's for sure. And so the reason I bring up the size, it doesn't really matter once it's mounted, but if you're doing more run and gun or travel stuff, these smaller ones might be a better fit than the bigger ones. The bigger ones can be a little bulky, and in the case of the Beastgrip, you have to have a cage to use it. So just to compare the size, here is the Beastgrip, and here is the Sandmarc. You can see how much bigger this one is. It's considerably bigger, and it weighs probably 60% more. And we'll talk about weight in just a second. Same with the Moment compared. And then the Shiftcam. Very big size difference. And again, they just mount differently. ReeFlex and then Freewell. Freewell, very similar, again, to the Beastgrip. And they compare similarly to the smaller lenses. The ReeFlex is probably close to the size of the Shiftcam, but it is a bigger lens overall, and the main thing is it weighs a lot more. This one weighs, I wouldn't say twice, but almost twice as much as this one, probably 60-75% as much. And so again, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing more heavy-duty filmmaking, the bigger lenses may be better. If you're doing more lightweight travel stuff, you might consider the smaller ones. So all these lenses have different mounts, which has made this video really fun doing the test footage, let me tell you. But the point is, you need to pick an ecosystem and probably stay with it, because the reality is each of these has its own unique mount, and some of them are completely proprietary. All right, so now we'll look at the mounts, and this is the Beastgrip 1.7x Tele, and it is a 37mm mount. Now, this used to be considered a universal mount, and technically it is, but really no other lens makers use this mount now besides Beastgrip, or at least none that I'm aware of. And so while it is universal in the fact that you can get different cages that hold it, right now Beastgrip is the main one that uses it. And so you've got to use a cage with this lens. Now here's the Freewell 1.7 times telephoto, very similar to the Beastgrip, but it has a Freewell mount, and it's a proprietary mount. It kind of looks like Moment, but it's not. It's its own mount. And so the only way to use these lenses is with the Freewell case. And so it is a proprietary lens mount. And now here is the ReeFlex telephoto, and it uses the 17mm mount. And now this is technically the most universal mount there is because multiple brands use this mount. So you can connect these lenses to different kinds of cases and cages. So I've started really liking the 17mm mount, and that's what ReeFlex uses. And speaking of 17mm, that's what Sandmarc uses as well. Sandmarc has the 17mm cases you can buy, or you can use this on a cage, again, like from Small Rig, etc. But the 17mm mount is great, and it is more universal now. And now the Shiftcam telephoto. The Shiftcam telephoto looks sort of like 17, but it's not. It's actually a proprietary mount. And so you have to use the Shiftcam case to use this lens. And right now, at the time of this video, that is the only way to mount these lenses. These are not supported on other cases or cages at this point. And so again, to use this, you need to use the Shiftcam gear. And here is the Moment T-Series. And the Moment T-Series is, as the name indicates, a new T-Series mount. You can see it there. Very similar to their original M-Series mount. And the M-Series mount became quasi-universal. It became more or less ubiquitous. It was available across all kinds of cases and cages. And it still is, the M-Series. But those lenses don't work on the latest generation phones. You've got to have the T-Series. But to use this, you primarily have to use a Moment case. However, there are cages now that do support it, like from Small Rig, Beast Cage, etc. Wanted to briefly talk about filters. I'm not reviewing filters in this video. I've done some in the individual videos I've done about these lenses, but I just wanted to tell you which ones are proprietary and which one are more universal. And in reality, pretty much all of them are proprietary except for one. So the ReeFlex uses magnetic filters, and I really like that system quite a bit. They're easy to use, and the filters seem like they're very good quality, but you can't use your own filters. Maybe they have some third-party ones that'll work, but from ReeFlex and the actual mount that's on here, you have to use their magnetic filters. Moment has their own filter mount. You have to buy an additional mount, and then once you've got that mount on here, you can use traditional filters. And I like Moment filters. I use those a lot. But you do need to add a mount to this. It doesn't have like just a standard screw-on ring that you can attach any filter directly to the lens. Shiftcam has their proprietary mount. They do have a little screw-on filter, and I do like that they screw on like a traditional lens, but they are proprietary, and so you can't adapt them to other filters that you might already own. Same with Sandmarc. Sandmarc has a screw-on, which I do like, but their filters are made for their lenses. And to my knowledge, they're proprietary. You can't use other filters with their system. Their filters are good, don't get me wrong, but you can't just grab a Moment filter or Freewell or Polar Pro or whatever and put it on this lens. You have to buy theirs. Same with Freewell. Freewell is interesting because it comes with a UV filter mounted to the lens already, and I do like that. That protects the lens, and it's a nice feature. But then their filters are proprietary for their smartphone lenses, which I don't love because Freewell makes some great traditional filters. I use them all the time. And so I wish they would work on this, but they don't. This looks like a standard screw-on mount, but it's not. It's their proprietary size. At least I can't figure out how to get a traditional filter on here. But if you want to use traditional filters, the Beastgrip is the way to go. It has a 62mm mount, so you can screw any filter on there you want, or you can use a step-up ring and attach 77mm, whatever you want to use. And so from a filter versatility perspective, the Beastgrip is the best by far. But of course, again, you can use filters on all these. They just work in different ways. And so whatever ecosystem you get into, just be aware that those filters will work depending on whether they're proprietary or you have to buy a mount from the actual brand. The Sandmarc lens comes with a lens cap and a rear cap as well. And then additionally, and this is pretty nice, it comes with a bag that you can put it in. It says Sandmarc on there and it says Telephoto. But even more, it comes with a little case with a lens cleaning cloth. And so it's a nice little self-contained kit. Now the Shiftcam lens I got didn't come with a cap or a lens cap. They do offer that, but it didn't come with the one I got. What did come with it is a nice little lens case. And so it's molded to fit this exact lens. So you drop it in there and it's a zipper pouch and you close that. And then on the little carabiner, it says what it is, 60mm telephoto. The Moment lens comes with a lens cap, which is nice. It doesn't come with a rear cap, but it comes with a bag, and the bag is marked. It says Telephoto. And so this is just what I keep it in, and it works fine, but there is no rear lens cap with this particular lens. The Beastgrip feels like a traditional lens. It's big and it's kind of heavy, but it comes with a traditional lens cap, which I like. Just pops right in. It feels really familiar. Comes with a rear lens cap as well. That's a screw on and off. And then they also ship with a bag, a little soft carry pouch, and that's what I leave them in most times. So it feels pretty protected. ReeFlex comes with a lens cap and a rear cap. The rear cap just pops off. It covers the 17mm mount. But the lens cap is interesting because it's magnetic. And so it has a magnetic connection, which I like quite a bit. And their filters are magnetic as well. And then the Freewell system is interesting. It is a rubber cap and a rubber back cap, and they're connected. The back cap doesn't really connect that well in my experience, but it doesn't really matter because the main cap connects fine. And the reason it really doesn't matter that much is they also include a pouch similar to Shiftcam. And so you can drop the whole lens in the pouch and zip it up. And on top of that, this is interesting, it comes with a lens hood. And so the lens hood connects to the actual lens when you're shooting if you need it. That's good for eliminating flares and that kind of thing. And it makes it feel more like a bigger traditional lens. But again, the protection that comes with it is pretty good and probably one of the better of the bunch. So how do they all work? We'll get to some more footage now, but keep in mind that the larger sensor and camera bump on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max have been problematic. Okay, first up is the ReeFlex lens, and this lens looks really good. You don't really see any issues with the corners or chromatic aberration. Solid lens. Now here is the Sandmarc, and the Sandmarc looks solid. You might be seeing a little bit of edge softness, ever so slightly, but really overall, this one looks good as well. Now here I am switching because I was able to use my Beast cage with the 17mm mount on those two lenses, and now I'm putting an adapter for the 37mm mount to use the Beastgrip lens. This saved me some time not having to switch every single case. And the Beastgrip lens is a little bit wider than the others, and it is sharp. I don't see anything wrong with this image whatsoever. Now I'll get rid of that, and I'm using my Beastgrip Pro, and this is the Shiftcam. Shiftcam looks good. I am seeing just a little bit of edge softness in the corners, but overall, pretty solid performer. Now here's the Freewell. Now the Freewell is a little bit surprising because their other lenses perform very well. Their Telephoto is their weakest lens, and you can see edge softness, especially on the upper left and upper right. We'll talk more about this in just a minute. And then here's the Moment lens. And I reviewed the Moment lenses previously, and so this wasn't a surprise. This lens doesn't perform very well. You can see all kinds of softness on the upper left, especially in this shot. Okay, now we're gonna get geeky and pretty nitpicky. I should note, this is not a scientific test. I am shooting everything at 5600 white balance using the Blackmagic camera app, but I have to switch the lenses, and so there are different variables involved, and then I couldn't fill the chart completely with the image, and so just keep all that in mind, but you do get to see the same shot side by side with each lens. Now up first is the iPhone lens. This is the standard 24mm, using this as a baseline. And then here's the tighter shot of that. Of course, this is crisp and clean. And so first up is the Moment lens. This will be a recurring theme, but the center of the shot looks great. But when you go out to the edges, you start seeing issues. Look at the right side especially. There's chromatic aberration and just soft edges. The Freewell might be even worse, although the center is still nice and sharp, but the edges just drop off. Which again, is a surprise to me because their other lenses across the board are solid. I've reviewed those. When I did that review, I didn't have the Telephoto. And so this is again, their worst performer. And I hope they actually update this because it doesn't make a lot of sense that this one performs so much worse than their other lenses. Now here is the Shiftcam, and the Shiftcam I reviewed as well. And overall, it works pretty well. The center is great. The edges do start dropping off a little bit. In my opinion, it's fine. This is the kind of thing you wouldn't really notice in the real world. We're pixel peeping in a sense right now, but it is a solid option that is not perfect, but it performs well enough. Beastgrip is the best lens as far as the sharpness and the overall image quality, and that includes color. This almost looks like it's right out of the iPhone with no lens on it. I see nothing wrong with this whatsoever. And again, the color looks great too. The other lenses have a slight cast, a little bit of a warmer cast or cooler depending on the lens, but the Beastgrip lens here is great. And now Sandmarc. Sandmarc is a very good lens. I would put it a little bit ahead of Shiftcam as far as the sharpness and overall image quality. The center looks sharp, and really the edges look pretty good too. I'm seeing just a little bit of aberration, but I'm being really picky on the right-hand side. Overall, this is a very solid lens and not much wrong with this one. And now ReeFlex, and these ReeFlex lenses are basically brand new. And so I just got them recently and I am very impressed with these. The ReeFlex looks almost the same as Beastgrip. I think the Beastgrip is slightly better. It reproduces the color a little bit better and it's just a little bit sharper, but overall the ReeFlex is excellent. And so here is all 6 lenses cropped together and I put them in order from worst in quotes to best. So Freewell, Moment, Shiftcam, Sandmarc, ReeFlex, and Beastgrip. And I think you can see, again, based on this one test, that Beastgrip does lead the pack. So what do I recommend? Well, if you're just going by image quality alone, then obviously the Beastgrip looks the best and that would be my choice. However, you've got to take into consideration that not only are those lenses more expensive, but they're also bigger and heavier, and you've got to use a cage. And so it really comes down to a subjective opinion. The ReeFlex would be right behind those as far as image quality, and they can actually work on a case or a cage being 17mm, and so they're probably a little more portable. But for the lightest and most portable, I'd probably say Sandmarc or Shiftcam. Sandmarc's image quality was slightly better, but the Shiftcam was lightest. Now Moment and Freewell didn't perform very well in the chart test, but the other lenses in their lineup do work pretty well, and in particular Freewell. Which, by the way, remember, this is for the 15 Pro or Pro Max. If you're using an earlier phone, these lenses work much better. But again, if you're looking for the highest image quality telephoto lens, then yeah, it's the Beastgrip. But that doesn't mean it's the best lens for you. By the way, I've done individual review videos on several of these lens brands, and I've got all of them in an article on my website. So I'll put that link in the description along with all the links to everything I covered today. Thanks for watching. This is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.